So the Samsung Galaxy S24 has just came out, so let's go and take a look at it against the iPhone 13 and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now I will definitely tell you between both these devices, the Galaxy S24 may be the one that might be a better option for some people out there, but if you want to pick up some phones I would recommend buying this year, including these two, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now starting off with the outside of both, you can kind of tell that there's some differences going on between them for sure. The front of the iPhone 13 had a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, and it was a pretty good looking panel. I was a fan of this panel when it first came out. However, since then it's kind of aged a little bit, as you can kind of tell. So for one, you're still getting a pretty good display. You're getting the notch up top, which is very good to have. I love having that type of notch. A little bit of bezel around the display, which isn't really that bad, and I think it looks pretty good for the most part. It is a 60 Hz display, so that's kind of the one thing aging this phone for the most part. But I would tell you that overall, it's a pretty good looking display, and I don't really have too much to complain about it from that specific perspective. Now, in the Samsung Galaxy S24, this is a little bit of a different story. This phone has a 6.2-inch dynamic LTPO AMOLED display, and it's a very, very good looking display. It's flat side, so they're both flat side, but the Galaxy S24 has a little bit less bezel around it. I don't know if you can kind of tell. You're also not getting the notch. It's a hole punch display, and it's a 120 Hz display at that. So it's a very good looking display. I think this phone looks very good in a lot of different ways, and by far this is probably the better panel. And it's 120 Hz. This is a very good looking panel on this phone over something like the iPhone 13. Now on the sides, you can kind of tell once again, they both kind of have the same type of layout. I think the iPhone 13 might be a little bit slimmer. Actually, no, I mean, they're both probably all around the same thing. I don't think you're going to be able to tell. You do have the volume buttons on the side of the iPhone 13. On the top, you don't really have anything besides the two microphone holes on the S24. On the bottom, you are getting your SIM card tray on the bottom of the S24 and the lightning port on the iPhone 13. USB Type-C on the Galaxy S24 is here, and the speaker grills and everything. On the back side, you can kind of tell again that we do have our camera setups. Now we do have a triple camera setup on the Galaxy S24. We have a dual camera setup on the iPhone 13. So those are some pretty big things to keep in mind here. Some pretty cool things going on. Wide and ultra wide telephoto lens. We'll get into that in a second. We have our standard glass back on the back of the iPhone 13. With the Galaxy S24, we have our frosted glass back. So I would tell you from that specific perspective, you're definitely getting overall, nicer feeling phone, I would say, on the Galaxy S24 with it having that frosted glass back. It genuinely does feel much better. You're also getting things like, wireless charging on both MagSafe on the iPhone 13, reverse wireless charging on the Galaxy S24. So on the outside, I'll definitely tell you, there are still a lot of reasons, why the, Galaxy S24 is better. But the iPhone 13 still kind of holds up decently well in a lot of different ways as well. So that kind of covers it up there. In terms of software and longevity, this is probably the craziest thing. iPhones, even iPhones that were 2 or 3 years old, sometimes could actually last longer than the current generation Samsung Galaxies. And that is not the case anymore. The iPhone 13 is probably going to last another 4 years maybe. The Galaxy S24 is just getting started with software, and this phone's, from Samsung's word, is going to last for 7 years. That's insane. So this phone is going to be lasting for a long period of time. I can't wait to see how long this phone lasts. And maybe there's a chance, maybe by the end of its lifespan, it may last even longer. Who knows? We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but that's something that I'm very much looking forward to, and probably one of the biggest advantages of buying something like a Samsung Galaxy S24 in my perspective. So that covers it up there. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these phones. The Samsung Galaxy S24 has that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset inside, with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 12. This one has 8. With the iPhone 13, has an Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it, with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one's a faster phone between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, as you can see. So let's get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Let's go into their app stores. I don't even know if I have Wi-Fi on this one. I guess I do. And you can see it's almost instantaneous on the Galaxy S24, but app stores typically load faster on the iPhone. And you can see this one had no internet connection, so that was one thing I was talking about. Camera 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Let's go and take a photo 3, 2, 1. So this one did get a number. This one did 2. Let's see which one's faster. The S24's night mode was faster than the iPhone 13's night mode, as you can see. This one did take a long time to kind of process that one. Hopping out of these two, we do have some third-party applications we can kind of test out. So it's going to do Temple Run 1, 3, 2, 1. And you can see with the S24, they were on different panels, and we do have this annoying thing that kind of came up here, so there's not really much I can really do about it. We can get into the actual game 3, 2, 1 and see kind of which one is the faster one from that perspective. but I generally do think it's going to be roughly around the same thing. I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. Hopping out of these two, so I'm going to stack 3, 2, 1. And it looks like the iPhone 13 is probably again a little bit. Actually, I don't know which one was the faster one, to be honest. Hopping out of these two, let's go into the actual game. The S24 took a long time to get into it, to be honest. Into the game, you can see kind of the same thing, not that big of a difference here. Hopping out of these two, let's go and try something like X, 3, 2, 1. So I was getting like 2 different panels. I already knew I was going to. Tempo run 2, 3, 2, 1. So this one did get into the downloading config thing, so it would have been a little bit faster hypothetically, but by that point I think the Galaxy S24 still would have been a little bit like slightly faster, but again I don't think it would have been that big of a difference anyways, to be honest. You can kind of see what's going on. They're both kind of the same thing. Hopping out of these two, the S24 definitely was the faster one there. Dismissing out of all those, let's get into the game. 3, 2, 1. And it was fast. They both were kind of the same thing. I don't know if there were any glitches going on between the background of both of them. Hopping out of these two, let's go and try Thank You, 3, 2, 1. Now this is also not like that big of a game, but it's still kind of fun to test out and kind of check out. The Galaxy S24, as you can see, was the faster one, and the iPhone 13 slightly slower. Getting into the game itself, let's go and see if there's one like faster or slower. Kind of look like the same thing. Let's go and try Snake First Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And yet Galaxy S24 is faster. So I really don't know if there's one that was like consistently faster like every single time. I think when it comes down to it, both phones are pretty good, but I do think that the Galaxy S24 is probably the one that is consistently the faster one over something like the iPhone 13. So that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the cameras, like I mentioned before, you're getting basically good cameras on both. 4K 6 on the back of both, in front of both these, but the Galaxy S24 does have that 8K capability, which is very cool. You're essentially getting wide ultra-wide telephoto lens on the S24, so an additional telephoto lens on the S24, which is very nice to have. Now, from the camera of the iPhone 13, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good camera, and the only thing it's missing is that telephoto lens. Otherwise, though, still having like 5x zoom and 0.5x zoom on the outside is very nice. You're getting video mode, cinematic mode, portrait mode, panorama mode. Overall, a very, very good camera, and it's something that I actually like a lot. I genuinely do think if you're in the market and you're still looking for a decent iPhone at a decent price that still has a good camera, this is actually a very decent option, I think, in my opinion, which is actually very cool. With the Galaxy S24, I also think this is a very, very, this is the best camera you could probably buy in this day and age. Like, it's such a good camera in almost every single way. This lens, you're essentially getting, 0.6x zoom on the outside, which is very nice, but also you're getting like 30x zoom, which is genuinely very cool. So that's something I like a lot, and without a doubt, that's something that I look at as being probably one of the better advantages of this type of device. You're getting portrait mode, which is cool, video mode, and under more, you're getting a lot more options as well, which is actually very, very awesome. So that's something that I actually like a lot about this phone, is that you're getting a lot more modes built into this particular phone than a lot of other phones in its competition, which is genuinely a very, very cool thing. So overall, what I'll definitely tell you and kind of recommend is that with something like the Samsung Galaxy S24, it's a very good device. It's so solid, and it was, honestly probably one of the better things going on for this phone is its camera, build quality, its display. There's so much to love about this phone. I think the iPhone 13, though, is like a different type of phone. Like, it's very good, and I like it a lot, but there are still a lot of reasons why I'd probably recommend buying the S24 over this one. But this device is very good, and if you're looking for a cheaper phone over it in general, this is a very decent option. Like, it doesn't cost that much money. It doesn't cost as much as it used to. And I do think, like, if you're in the market, it's a pretty good option in my opinion. So that pretty much covers it up here. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video.